Hello everyone, welcome to a special podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Today we are going to review a web series called Super Task Force 1. This came out really recently, just a couple months ago, and is on a channel by a guy named Steve Rudinsky, who does a lot of kind of web movies and kind of fun low budget stuff. And this is kind of a Power Rangers spoof. Although I watched a video where he was talking about it,
Oh,
and
I didn't see that.
yeah, he talks about it more as just another of these kinds of things. What is the name of this genre? I can never remember that. Yeah, he talks about that, and he says he's borrowing a lot and influenced a lot by these, or by Power Rangers and other things in that genre, but that he wanted this very much to be its own. I saw it as almost more of a deconstruction of Power Rangers.
Well, it's definitely Power Rangers influenced. I mean, the costume's kind of Power Rangers-y. And
he makes fun of every trope that I always like to make fun of.
Yeah, and there's certainly, I mean, there's when they explain why there's an explosion behind him, like that's line for line from RPM.
Yeah, and he talks about that in the video that I watched, where he's talking about it, where he said that he was really heavily influenced by RPM. He talks about that.
Well, RPM does a lot of this stuff too, where it kind of points out the obvious things that we never address in Power Rangers. But I mean, it's not a Power Rangers thing. It's kind of got its own. It's strange to say because it's only like an hour long, but it's got its own history and mythology to it.
It does, and it's not super generic. There's some really good ideas there.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, he's I mean, it's clearly influenced by, but I could see him saying, well, it's not a Power Rangers fan film. It's a genre fan film.
So Eric found this on a whim. I don't know how you found this.
I was on a website called Dan's Toku Rants, and I was downloading some podcasts, and they had and that site notoriously is really down on Power Rangers fan films, and they had an article that was like, this is a fan film done right, so I just went and looked at it.
Cool. And Eric sent it to me and said, hey, can we review this? Because this is kind of neat. And I think part of the reason you wanted to do this was just to let people know about it.
Yeah, I really liked it. And you have over 10,000 subscribers, and he has like 400 views. So I thought it'd be nice to let some people know it's out there. And I know a lot of your viewers and my viewers are Power Rangers fans.
Power Rangers fans, yeah, and have the same kind of thing that he does, where you grew up with this, and as an adult you think about all the silly kind of non sequiturs and weird leaps in logic and just hilarious things like why do the Power Rangers always have to wear the same color, and
why don't you just start with a big weapon?
And why don't you just start with a giant monster that just stomps on you right away? I really enjoyed all that stuff. I thought there was a lot of really witty stuff in the script.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
I do think that there are some places here and there where some of the line deliveries actually aren't as good as the actual script.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of stuff like that, but for what this is, I mean, like a couple $1,000s went into this, and it's a super low budget thing. It's a very homemade kind of thing, and I say that in the most loving way possible.
Oh yeah,
this is watchable, and it's really fun to see just with how minimalistic it is, and this is a really good example when we talk about fan films. And one of the reasons that I've never been a big fan of a lot of fan films, though I'm turning around a little bit because the production qualities are going up with a lot of things, and things are just getting easier to do, where it doesn't try to do too much that it's not capable of making look good for what it is.
Yeah, it's like he sat down and he knew exactly what he could do and wrote a script around that. He didn't try to have some kind of... It's not, post-apocalyptic, like the entire world is ending, there's 1,000 alien ships, which I think a lot of people, specifically with Power Rangers, want to do that kind of thing.
And it's just really hard to pull off. He seems to be really in tune with his special effects guy and knows what that guy can do.
Yeah. Well, and Uh, at the end, we get a big robot fight,
Yeah,
which
and it's very cartoony, and it's not like it's super integrated or anything. Although it's all 100% animated. But for what this is, and given that it is like it's supposed to look kind of low budget. I actually didn't mind all that. I thought it looked decent for what it
I
was.
really liked it. The two things I thought made it stand out to other things I've seen that have done things like this is one, I thought the speed lines just gave like a better like added more kineticism to the action. And it almost kind of didn't fix that the animation is, low budget, but it made it feel less low budget or like it was more intentional. But also we get a fully rendered second version of the robot all beat up, and that impressed me. Like it's it's not expensive CGI, but there's work put into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything's textured. There's some stuff in that fight. That's all in like a city, and they're smashing each other up against buildings and stuff. There's some stuff in there that I thought was actually really really cool looking. And I want to mention I like the design of the suit a lot.
The mech suit or the suit.
The ranger suit.
Yeah, it's got that kind of it hints at Power Rangers, but it isn't exactly the costume.
And again, it doesn't look generic. That easily could have been one of the seasons
Oh
of,
yeah.
of and I just I like how the light bounces off of it. It's got that kind of glossy finish, and yeah, it looks really good. The morphing sequence is awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the morphing sequence is really cool.
So let's talk a little bit about what the thing's about, because yes, it's kind of playing with all those tropes and parroting that kind of stuff. But again, there is a story, and it's about one guy who has to do the Power Ranger thing all by himself.
Right.
I thought that was kind of a fun idea. It was like there used to be six. I think it was six. There used to be six, and they got kind of kicked out by the government. And then the bad guy doesn't show up anymore. And then it turns out that's because the bad guy's actually been manipulating things behind the scenes all along via mind
and
control.
that's what led to them getting decommissioned in the first place.
Yeah, and I thought all that was cool. I thought it was really fun that it took a little bit of a political angle, and I think it's important to note too that this thing, while it's doing the Power Ranger thing, at least when you go back to like the early seasons of Power Rangers, it's definitely a lot more of a coherent thing
Yeah, well,
story wise.
it kind of reminds me of like Power Rangers, like kind of via The Incredibles,
Oh, that's interesting.
because The Incredibles has the same kind of beginning setup.
It's a legacy thing, and the only difference is this is a new character who wasn't there in the first place.
Yeah, it would be more like if the main character of The Incredibles was Dax or Dex, or is it Dax? What's the kid's
Uh,
name? The super
uh,
fast
uh,
kid.
it's Dash because he runs
Dash.
fast.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
not Dax, it's Dash.
As soon as you said six things, I was like, well, now I can't think of it. But yeah, so yeah, it's kind of interesting because it is an origin film,
Yeah. It's an origin for him, but it's not an origin for the entire universe type
and I
thing.
thought that was really smart. I mean, I think it would have been a different movie. He could have made something where this universe existed and we just get an adventure in it, but it would have been, I think, harder to make fun of the formula that way. I mean, I think the way he did it made a lot of sense. Where he's like, okay, there's this new guy, and because he hasn't been around, he doesn't know what all the stupid rules are that shouldn't be there in the first place.
Which
And
are kind of acknowledged by the bad guy.
and that was one of my favorite things. The putty thing cracked me up. He fights their version of the putties, and the explanation for what they are I thought was cool.
He won't morph,
And
they never do.
he goes, yeah, he goes up against it, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna wipe this guy out because the Super Task Force guys never morph when they go up against them, and then of course he morphs and he beats them really easily. I will say there's not a whole lot of choreography in this.
No, it's one of the more weaknesses of the film. Uh, the action isn't greatly staged. Um,
And it's not bad. It's just that a lot of the time it's pretty short,
yeah,
and you get a pretty rockin' action scene with the mechs because that's all pre-programmed. It doesn't match up real well with the live action stuff, and it would have been nice to have come up with either a reason to have him in costume a little more often, or just to make those longer somehow. But then I'm saying that if they'd been too long, I'd be complaining that they were too long.
yeah,
You know what I mean? With the kind of action he's doing, and again, that's kind of a being minimal kind of thing. Like it's too bad he didn't have access to like wire riggings and stuff like that.
yeah.
Without that, it's a lot harder to do some of the kind of because like he doesn't get to have his guy jump really high. That's a thing you would expect for one of these. And he even had to kind of cheat with it when he jumps up into his mech.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed that, where like he jumps, but like they can't get him very high, so it cuts real fast.
No, I didn't. I didn't even notice that.
And there's stuff like that. And again, I'm not criticizing it. He's doing the best he can with what he's got, and I'm impressed with it. I do want to mention it just since we are reviewing this, and so I don't want to pull punches too much. There's a couple of things I wanted to complain about. One of them is sound design.
Are you talking about the bad guys?
No, I don't mind that.
Okay.
It's just that their microphones for whatever reason clip a lot at the tops.
Oh, see,
And
I didn't notice that. I only noticed it really with the bad guys sound like it's somebody speaking into a mic.
that's one of the things that kind of hurts the professionalism of it because a lot of it really does seem pretty professional, but then you got that and that hurts it a little bit. It wasn't, I mean, it didn't kill the whole thing or anything, but that was the thing I thought I should probably bring up. That's a thing. The other thing is I kind of thought that the guy. By the way, his name is Jason Oliver, and that just cracks me
Yep,
up.
yep, I thought that was funny.
That was,
And they
that
wait
was
to reveal it too. They just call him Jason for a while.
for a while. I thought it was a great choice, and that's fun too because okay, so he's gonna be the green one, and Jason and Tommy were both kind of co-leaders, and also Green was like the big experiment thing with the bad guys and Power Rangers, and in this it was also an experiment.
I like the explanation of the Green Ranger being like the jack of all trades ranger. I thought that
Oh
was a cool
yeah,
little
yeah,
thing.
that's cool. Actually, I shouldn't say it was an experiment. I guess in Power Rangers it was an experiment in that the bad guys were trying something that wasn't a monster,
In
but
that
like
for
the
some
actual
reason they waited this long to do something different. Yeah.
even though they had that coin lying around, but the coin itself I don't think was an experiment like the White Ranger coin was.
I don't think so.
It was another coin.
Like we talked about when we did our commentary. I think we filled in a lot more mythology than that show did. I don't know if there's any explanation for that coin.
And once again, let me reiterate that the mythology in this is solid.
Oh yeah, no, it's like he could easily go and do more of this, even if he just did like prose stuff or like a flash animation. Like there's he could go backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about this, but with that ending, I really wanted to see more, man.
Well, I
I
saw
love
in the
that.
comments he said he's got a script for another one called Green Gold with Evil.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah,
That's a cool idea, given that whole that whole like unstable gold thing. Yeah, that's neat, and it would be fun to see him actually make a character evil and give him a little bit of dimension
yeah,
because these characters aren't completely without dimension. But one of the things I wanted to mention that I wasn't real thrilled with was I felt like Jason was a little bit too over the top in freaking out about not wanting to be a superhero.
yeah.
That goes too far, and it seems like it's there to contrast where he gets to at the end, so that it'll seem like he has an arc. But I think the script is better than like I'm not sure that he knows how that the script is as good as it is because I think that he plays that up too much.
Yeah, well, it's because there's a point where there's a point specifically in like the middle where he does it again, and I was like, "Oh, I thought you were past this." Like early on, it's kind of played for comedy, and it works much better when he's in the suit freaking out about the situations than when he's with his friend and he's just like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the Green Enforcer.
Yeah, and he just came off as a little bit too whiny in some of those sections, and they were trying to play it for comedy, but I didn't think it was funny.
I thought it was funny occasionally, but in other places, not so much. It was funnier in the beginning.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And maybe it's just that it went on too long. Like after a while, when being on the ground kicking and screaming was a normal place to see that guy, I guess at that point I'd had maybe a little bit enough of it. I also think that that is a throwback to uh, certain kinds of animes,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and so he's doing that, and that might be part of kind of
Well,
the
and
parody
that's
thing.
more of I've said many times that Japanese people don't realize they're not cartoons, and they do that stuff in tokusatsu quite often. Like even though they can't turn
So
into
maybe
those
that's
super deformed
oh wow.
whining characters, they still act like that occasionally.
Well, I
Um,
mean, so maybe it's not even fair of me to complain about that because maybe that's just a part of this genre, but I'm not used to seeing it because Power Rangers didn't have that.
the one time I think it really worked, and I thought it was genuinely funny, is when he comes home and explains what happens. When he's talking to his girlfriend, he's just like, there was monsters, and then I got this thing, and there was explosions, and I transform and I beat him. I thought that one was funny.
Yeah, I like that one, and it made a lot of sense there because when he's in the suit, he's a lot more confident because he suddenly has all this knowledge
Yeah,
and he knows how everything works. I get the sense, and I like that that's
which
explained.
is an easy throwaway line that Power Rangers never did.
No, you just say, oh, it's an AI,
It
and
pipes all
it
the
thinks,
knowledge in.
yeah, it's great. Oh, by the way, the AI was cool.
Yeah, I like the AI. I thought that was a unique little idea, which I'm again kind of surprised Power Rangers has never done.
Another thing I really liked, mostly because I thought I was the only one that thought of it, that ever thought of this, and if I ever redid Power Rangers, I was going to do this. And maybe this was in RPM or in one of the other shows, and I just didn't see it because I haven't seen much of RPM. But they explain that the costume goes into a pocket dimension,
I'm pretty
and
sure
that
that's mentioned in REM, or RPM, but I'm not positive on that.
that's where it comes from.
Well, I
And
like that everything comes from a pocket dimension. All the weapons, Zordon, like everybody comes from a pocket dimension.
well, actually, in RPM, don't aren't the suits? Because I saw an episode
Yeah, they
where the
they, they
suits
transport the suits.
they transport them. They're
Yeah,
they're not actually in a pocket dimension. So I wonder if there's a place where there's a pocket dimension, or if this guy thought of that, and I'm just like, oh, cool, I thought of that too.
yeah. That's I mean that's the best explanation for pulling weapons out of nowhere. Which is also funny when he pulls it out and he's like, I just pulled this weapon out of nowhere.
Pull it out of nowhere. Yeah, it's a good witty script.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun fan film that I think. Well, I guess it's not a fan film. I guess you could just call it a short film.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it knows what it can do, and for the most part, it plays to its strengths, which I
and
think
again,
other fan films sometimes stumble at.
the best thing about it is that it's not generic, even though it's doing a lot of parody stuff and poking fun at things. Because it very easily could be like the Spaceballs of Power Rangers, and it's not that.
Yeah, no, it's completely its own thing. Like you could take this movie and you could do the dark version of it. Like it's not just okay, well this is Power Rangers, or this is everything but Power Rangers, in name, or everything
Uh,
Power Rangers but in name.
the last thing I want to mention is it's so cool he got David Fielding.
Which I didn't know what David Fielding looked like. You had to tell me that.
Yeah, David Fielding gets a cameo in the middle where we get a flashback to their Zordon,
He's the
and their
doctor that
Zordon,
made the Power Rangers. He's the scientist.
yes, and their Zordon is David Fielding, who voiced Zordon in the first season of Power Rangers. I actually have interviewed David Fielding, and he's super fun to talk to, and I just got really giddy when I saw him in this. That's all I wanted to say about it. Definitely recommending this. I was pleasantly surprised by it. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I don't think we mentioned this, but we should mention. Uh, earlier you talked about like this is something that you grow up and you become an adult and you think about all these things. This is kid appropriate. This is not anything.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, yeah. It's an all ages film, which I think a lot of times when people do fan films, they don't shoot for that because they don't have to. But it was nice that he did that.
Yeah, there were one or two lines that were kind of adult, but it never went too far. Jason really liked it. My little guy, my 4-year-old, watched it with me, and he really liked it, and was upset that there wasn't any more, which was kind of funny. He was like, that's it. But yeah, he was. You should have seen him. He was really into it.
Oh, that's cool. But yeah, so you can watch it and your kids can watch it if you have kids or nieces and nephews or whatever, siblings.
This guy, Steve Rosinski, he is, he apparently got actually hired to shoot another project called Captain Z. There's a commercial for it on his YouTube, and I'm sure that'll come out at some point. But he's getting work, which is cool.
Cool. I mean, I definitely, I only watched this because I found it last night and I sent it to you. But I'd definitely like to look at his other stuff because I really liked this, especially writing wise.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for listening. We sure appreciate it, and go watch the show. If you like Power Rangers, you will probably enjoy a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah, it's 6 episodes, like about 10 minutes apiece. So about
an hour.
Yeah, it's about an hour long.
Well, thanks for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And we'll talk to you next time.